The 10th anniversary is finally packed up. It's out of here. This is essentially going to be a post-mortem where we're going to take a look at every single character released here and go through their kit, talk about how good I think they are. Not good, but how well designed I think they are. There have been some really well designed characters here, and besides the EX version, which I don't assume will be on the level of like the LR4s or the LR Gods, I don't really feel bad about doing this now. Maybe if they are particularly spicy, I'll add them on as a separate video, but here is the list of every single character, and if you listen to anything, listen to this. This is not going to be a tier list of like how great I think the character is. This is going to be a list of how well I think the character is designed. It is a very, very important distinction. 1 out of 10, how well do I think they're designed? That's all. If there's going to be characters who are stronger on here, who are at the top. There are going to be characters who are stronger on here that are near the bottom. It is what it is. This is specifically a design space. I talk a lot about design in Dokkan. I talk a lot about giving a character identity in Dokkan, and I think it's one of the things that's very important to keeping the game feeling fresh and not just going Beast Gohan, Beast Gohan, Beast Gohan, Gotenks, 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 who are characters who aren't really interesting, but they are flatly strong, and you need some of those, right? You need some characters who are flatly strong. You can't always have, you know, LR Ginyu, right? So let's get into it. We'll be looking at their kits, then placing them on the list. All right. So we're actually going to start with a character who I don't think is insanely weak. They're maybe weaker than you'd want them to be for a 10th anniversary LR, sure. They're weaker than maybe you want them to be if this is your favorite character in the anniversary, sure. But by all accounts, this isn't a 1 out of 10 unit in power. They're just fine. You float them off, or sometimes you can get away with running them in slot 2 or 3 on the Frieza side. Then you go into Goku and you have a defensive wall. The issue is for game feel, if we're just talking about how does it feel to use this character, is that you're getting one fun turn essentially out of the Frieza portion, right? And then you're usually switching off to the Goku, who by all accounts isn't really hitting for that very satisfying number like Frieza is. So what you essentially have is the equivalent of an unmoving, kind of not flashy enough wall. And the reason I say like it's not flashy enough is because you're paying your stones, you're paying a premium. This is a premium unit. You're paying a premium for a unit that doesn't really pop off of the screen during the 10th anniversary, where you'd kind of hope that these characters would be exceptional. I'm talking about, like, is it great that he gets 59% damage reduction when he gets a Rainbow Key Sphere? Of course it is. Is it great that he gets an extra layer of defense when he's 77% HP or more? You know, HP or more gets an additional. Of course. But this is a character who conditionally is working harder than a lot of characters on this list, right? So I'm Goku and Frieza. I'm the biggest Goku and Frieza fan in the world, right? Like let's put myself in that space. I'm not, but put myself in that space. I'm at a premium to summon this unit, and I'm working around more conditionals than literally every other character in the anniversary, right? Does any other character have as many like wonky conditionals as this one? I don't think so. So it's just like somehow they managed to make like a 2023 character. They made them 2025 level power, and then they also forgot to make their exchange have that sort of narrative through line. Instead, we're waiting to exchange, which doesn't really make any fucking sense. They just kind of like leveled the exchange units out on a flat line, but they didn't realize that like one of the exchange units, or two of them, the fusions, switch into extreme power. Even before they fuse, they switch into extreme power, have a dominant, powerful active skills, either crushing the Vatora or going into Veku. And by comparison, we just have a damage sink, right? So it's like, I'm exchanging at turn 4, because again, for some reason, my exchange condition is just weaker than both the Goku and the Vegeta. I'm getting an active skill that's just an attack. It doesn't do anything else. All attacks become criticals. Who isn't doing that already? You know what I mean? So it is kind of uniquely odd. Whereas instead, the through line should have been at any single point I can switch into Goku, use Frieza's hand out, right? And have like this defensive character taking, like, helping me out during a particularly hard turn. Maybe I swap back into Frieza after, and we go on and off. You don't have to wait. As well, I would say that, like, I don't know. I just think that the return on investment doesn't feel fulfilling enough. For that reason, where do I want to put Goku and Frieza? Because they're not terribly designed. They're just really wonky in a really unsatisfying way. I'm not, like, I couldn't put them down here. There is a character I'm going to put down here, and I think you know who it is before we talk. I guess I'll just do them next. I'm going to say that the Goku and Frieza leaves a lot to be desired. They feel like they get towards, like, here, and then they just shit themselves. This is a 5 out of 10, like, design unit. I don't know why. I don't know why this character has these conditionals in 2025, but isn't, like, strong enough to, I don't know, to actually possess them. Like, at the same turn when they're extreme class, same turn when they're super class, like, all of these wonky things that are cool. They do have this, like, narrative through line of, like, okay, you know, he's on the team with these good guys, but obviously Frieza is an extreme unit through and through. He's a villain. He doesn't change. He doesn't want to change. He's a villain. But so they're trying to, like, you know, maybe he's on a team with the good guys and he's on the Universal Survival Saga team. Maybe he's leading his own characters with, like, you know, if I can get down here, you know, the Wicked Bloodlines characters, like, you know, Golden Frieza and such. But yeah, I don't really know. I don't think it comes together well enough. So I'm gonna say 5 out of 10 for Frieza. It gets there, goes up and up and up, and then it just dives off a cliff. The next on the list, I'm gonna pair them together, are going to be the Kaioken Goku and the Great Ape Vegeta, who do extremely different things. Let's just say that. So, no bullshit. This is one of the worst characters I've ever personally seen. Maybe someone feels differently. Maybe someone is just, like, the biggest fan of this, like, moment in the world, and they're gonna cap for, like, the 4X Kaioken, but they clearly didn't care about this moment as much as, like, people in the community did. And that's kind of one of the things I really hang on, is, like, if Dokkan doesn't care, then why should I care? You know what I mean? Like, why cap for a unit that Dokkan clearly didn't care about? It's not going to make them better. And in this case, like, damage reduction per strength key sphere obtained in a turn. So the Namek Vegeta bullshit. Like, your defense is entirely tied to the RNG, which is, like, great. So this, okay, let's talk about something. Let's talk about the game of Dokkan Battle and why, like, Dokkan Battle doesn't work in a lot of ways. Is, like, in Epic 7, where it's gear based, so my characters are as good as the gear they have, and then what their kits do tip them over the scale. So at a baseline, every character could be S tier because their gear is so good, but then, like, their actual kits make them S plus, S plus. You know what I mean? For every strength cure sphere obtained, right, is fine if you can fit a bunch of key sphere changers onto the team. If I could use every single old unit in Dokkan and fit them onto the team and make this guy, like, an impossible tank because he gets 80% damage reduction because I have a full squad designed around, you know, making the entire field 20, you know, red key spheres, fine. But this isn't how this game works. This kit doesn't work because it's entirely reliant on them adding this level of changing to the game, right? 10 key spheres to get up to 40% is insane, right? 20 to get up to 80% is insane. So it is just this, like, what are we doing? Randomly change key spheres of a certain type of strength excluded to strength. It's just so annoying, man. It's so annoying. It wants to be a different game entirely. You want me to be playing like Epic 7, where you could actually do this, and then the downside would be that I'm running a bunch of characters who are weak or like weaker or supportive only, so they'd have to, you know, come together themselves. Whereas like Dokkan isn't that. The characters get aged out. It is what it is. You know what I mean? So, on that note, let's say I hate this character. He's gonna be like a 1 out of 10. Hate him. Sorry. I wish he was better. I love this moment in the series. Obviously, I talk about these Z moments a lot, where it feels like anime, like the shonen space, literally wouldn't exist if this moment doesn't happen and like save Shonen Jump from dying. But it is what it is, I guess. Furious Vegeta, on the other hand, is great. What a great guy. I will not go like 10 out of 10 best character in the world, like design wise, out of him, because I'd be a little bit of a hypocrite, because I always said that Beast Gohan sort of suffers from being flat. The great thing about Grade 8 Vegeta, if you love this moment, is he used to suck, right? But now he's just flatly strong. There's no shame in his game. Getting 40% on SOT 1, getting guard, and he guards all attacks. He's getting guard buffs when he actually does guard for 3 turns. You know, he's huge defensive swings. If you have to float him off, he's getting, you know, several attacks in, so he's actually like useful in that regard. Like he'll be a strong SOT 2, or he'll be a like competent SOT 2, SOT 3, you know, with guard and then some extra stats. I think he's just one of those characters that is flat. It's not like crazy design, it's just flat good. And I call that like a, call him like a 7 out of 10, because obviously they you know, he does go into Great Ape. And even though Great Ape isn't like, oh my god, it's crazy. You know what I mean? Like a lot of what he's doing is, you know, culminates in that sensation of like, you know, the Great Ape comes out, you get that free turn, and Vegeta just feels like this wall. Very true to the series, he's just this wall who, when Goku fights him, they die. We'll call that a nice, comfortable 7 out of 10. I guess I'll go into the free-to-plays here, and I just, you know, I always want to reiterate that I don't think Demon King Piccolo is bad, and I'm very happy that people got, if you're satisfied with like free-to-play LR Demon Piccolo being a free-to-play instead of a premium unit, and thus having like, just being weaker because of it, sure, you know, I'm glad we got our DB representation. In terms of what he's doing, he actually has a pretty tight kit, right? He is, I don't know if I'd say like, oh, this is like the essence of Demon Piccolo, but I will say that obviously he has minions. He fucking pukes of eggs. He has minions, he's supportive, he's, you know, bolstering their power, and as well as having his own, you know, inherent strength as a character. You know, when he finally becomes young, he's not only still like supporting here, but he's actually back to his power. You know, he's up to 200% per demonic power category ally or extreme class ally on the team, which has more numbers, which is very cool. You know, it's like he's like gathering the evil and he's exploding with that power. I think it's a sensational kit as far as the methodology goes, and I don't really have much to say on it. My only complaint about Demon King Piccolo always is that I wish he wasn't free to play. Because if he wasn't, he'd have 2-turn support, 3-turn support, and he'd just be better. And I don't want to, you hear me dialing this point all the time. I don't want to make excuses for the billion-dollar company. I don't care. Dragon Ball makes more money than almost most things in the world, right? So it's like, I don't really want to be like, oh, my poor, you know, game designers, they should have like, you shouldn't be mean to them. They tried to get Demon King Piccolo in so hard. Like, they tried their best. Like, no. Like, they said we're representing all of Dragon Ball, and then they made him free to play. I'm good on that. Next, we'll go into the Trunks and Goten that go into the failed fusions. Yeah, just not a good character. Maybe when they get their easy A's, but first turn, 30% damage reduction, and then I mean, they're just dead. Like, what? I guess so I guess you're supposed to float them because they're coming back on turn 4, right? Or if they're on slot 2, you can keep them on rotation, but I don't know why you would want to. This is just a completely dead character. I guess you go into Goten after. And, I mean, no support. Starting with a key sphere obtained one time. This is just a bad character, right? Like, I don't know why they made them. And again, if you love Goten and Trunks, I mean, are you going to make the same excuses for this character? Where it's like, oh, at least they're in the game. You know? They can clear story mode. Probably not. I think they're just badly made, though. I don't think they're a very good character. I don't think they're well designed either. I don't think they get across any of the through lines in the character. I literally don't know why they exist. So that's that section. So I think the next one's coming down the pipeline. I'm just going to go through all of the super EZAs, I think, in one go. So here we have Buhan. Everyone knows about Buhan. Attack and defense 200%. Changing key spheres to Rainbow, which is crazy. So Rainbow Orb changing character immediately. Getting 12 keys is going to be nothing, right? Like, he's already Rainbow Orb changing. He's already also a character who is on... He's essentially must run on villains, at which case he has a ton of links with already powerful Buhan characters. And the Buhan characters themselves have things like Shocking Speed. And I believe there's one more, isn't there? Yeah, Majin. So, essentially getting 4 of his key for free a lot of the time. And then having Rainbow Key Sphere changing. So you're always going to be at this. So you're getting 200%. Then you're also changing key spheres to int after the 5th turn, and all these fights are going long. For every key sphere obtained, you're healing, so more of that Majin healing identity. For Rainbow Key Sphere obtained, up to 66% damage reduction and critical hit. I don't know, man. This is a crazy card. So you need 2 for the critical hit to go to 66%. So you're basically critting for free. So you don't have to give him any crit. He's already an int character, so he gets 5 dots for free. He's supporting... Like, I don't know. He's kind of just perfect, right? Sorry. Look at the hiccups 1 second. So yeah, kind of just a perfect character. He's perfect in a way that's interesting because, one, I mean, he is kind of like flat stats, right? He is just fucking damage reducing god, but he's not a guarding character. He's just a damage reduction character. And this is how you make a character who's damage reduction if you're going to make them be purely damage reduction, right? You give them fucking ton, make it nice and conditional, but frame it around the actual thing that they're doing rather than being like this character. Literally, why does this character need to get, what would it be? 20? It would be like 15 or 14 orbs. Like strength orbs, by the way, not rainbow or any kind of orb. You need to get like 13 strength orbs to be on par with the Super EZA character. What? I don't know. Again, this isn't all about power, but I do like that a lot of Buhan's strengths are not only conditional, but they wrap around the thing he's actually doing, as well as integrating the very popular Majin thing of just being a healing character. I love that shit. Tack that on with the super class and extreme class support. I mean, I don't know. I love him. I guess we should go to the one that matches him, which is this character. Obviously, this character is a little disappointing. Now that we have the Vegito here, he's not even really a great Vegito linking partner, if you can imagine. Like, no one's really looking at this character and like, okay, now that we've got Super EZA Super Vegito here, we finally have a good linking partner for Vegito, because, I mean, do I need to say it? Like, it's so, even if you go down to like Namek Goku, like 5, I don't know, it's a big uh-oh. So yeah, this character is pretty good against normals, you know, 40%. He basically can't die to a normal attack because he has 80% damage reduction, which is fine. The issue is that also, you know, 58% HP or less receives enemy super attacks. Fine. He's just one of those characters who doesn't do enough, really, because he's not hitting super hard. Even though, but he is like, he is supporting, you know, here. He is, and that's a attack support, but he'd need to be in like slot 1 for it to matter, really. He could be in slot 2, which he's supporting the slot 3 character at that point. It just feels like Buhan explodes everything off the screen. unkillable, huge fucking damage, multiple attacks. Whereas this character feels more like Puppy. Like, still has the same support, you know, it's mirrored, but guarding all attacks and foreseeing enemy super attacks when you're 50% HP or less, not really where you want to be. Like, if you're at this like junction, if you're at 50% HP, you're kind of bleeding out. It's not something you aspire to. If Dokkan was better at like shoring up its gameplay, there could be cases where it's like, oh, you know, this team's identity is that you stay at like really low HP values, but obviously it's just not the type of game. Like, Dokkan's not the game where you can afford to be at 50% HP the entire fight, because you'll either die or you won't, essentially. And there aren't really, you can't really just like math out, you know, oh, I'll take 10% here, then I'll go up to 20%, then I'll go, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's not really the game for that. So I think overall, and what this character is aiming to do, which is Vegeta characters counter, you know what I mean? And I don't think that identity comes through well enough. I don't really know what he does other than just kind of like exist. I'm gonna put him at a 4 out of 10 because I do think that what he's doing is like enough to be okay, but I don't think he carves out enough of an identity for himself. I just don't think he becomes interesting through it. Janemba, continuing on in the EZAs that are villain EZAs and powerful, is another character who's just doing a little bit of everything. I do like that he's a guarding character. I like that he's an evading character. You could say this character's got worse because obviously there are more dodge canceling fights now that we're at the part 3 of the anniversary, and we're kind of seeing the landscape of what the meta will be for a few months. And that's fine, but I'm mostly just talking about like how he's designed, right? And in this case, I do love that Janemba from the series and a lot of Janemba characters, such as where is he? On here at all? Oh, I guess he probably wouldn't link with him, right? Because he's a character. The Janemba from the series is very ethereal, you know, that classic teleportation of him turning into like the building blocks and shit like that is so good. I like that Janemba characters typically dodge. I like that before attacking, he's getting extra dodge. I like that as the first or third person to obtain key spheres, he's specifically getting even more dodge, so it incentivizes you to gamble with his chances. It also makes him an extremely powerful slot 3, and also safeguards him against things like AoEs, because before he attacks, he gets 20%, meaning slot 3 is a perfect spot for him. He's essentially like, also, you know, defensive support looks great, especially for a character who is, of course, a defensive character. Like, he's dodging predominantly, so shoring up defenses for all allies as well as himself if he does happen to get hit is great. Like, it's just a nice through line. It's not like transcendent or anything. There's not much to say as far as like, oh my god, he's so interesting. He's just like he's an example of Janemba is a character I expect to sort of be ethereal, and I think it comes through with that. I don't think he's interesting enough to be a peer, but I think he's like, he does what I'd want him to do, so he's just like a very middling design. Again though, by the way, just to reiterate, a lot of these characters would be up here if I was just rating power. It's not a power tier list, just how I feel about them as kits. Gogeta hits really fucking hard. I'll say that. He's one of those characters that as a super easy, it just pumps out like a 30 million attack stat. So that's pretty cool. He's unfortunately not really what we need him to do. And because of that, it's not something I'm like clamoring for. I sort of wish that as a character, he kept true to the spirit of like Super Gogeta, who is a character in the movies that is not around for very long. Maybe he was just boom, explodes out the gate. First few turns, he's immaculate. Then you float him off, and he's extremely powerful, right? But he's giving an attack support. He is sort of, where is it? Yeah, he's getting, for every attack performed in the turn, he's getting 30%. It's just so small. Great chance of guarding in the big 2025, but obviously getting guaranteed against extreme class. I really chance just make him guard. I don't know. I really don't like his I really don't like Gogeta's design. He's not really exploding off the screen with anything particularly unique. Obviously he's got the same support as Janemba but flipped. And other than that, he's just like a attacker. I don't know. I'm not too impressed with Gogeta in terms of his design. So would I even put him up here? Vegeta's not really an interesting character, huh? Like in terms of his design. He is strong, but he's just not interesting. So let's go to Perfect Cell. Perfect Cell is Buhan Jr., I think. He's getting crit rate, right? 20%, and also damage reduction 20%. Rainbow Orb changing. Our GOAT. Rainbow Orb changing has definitely gotten a let's say jump in not only sustainability but viability. Just a great thing to have ticked on the box. The all allies defense 40% when there's another extreme class ally attacking the term. A nice consistent support, not hard to get. Obviously, if you're running Perfect Cell, you're probably running at least one other villain he wants to be with. That said, Cell characters do not have the best links in the world, so you know, as you can see here, the getting is not good. See here, so flat off we have like another like big bump of stats and to perform a critical hit and damage rate up for every key sphere or rainbow key sphere obtained, which again he is rainbow orb key sphere changing, so he could go up to, where is his damage reduction, 20% here, and then because you run him against a super class enemy, obviously you're not running this character to not have his damage reduction, but even if you were, you could still get up to like literally, you know, 50% in theory, right? So yeah, just a solid character. I have a soft spot for characters who Rainbow Key Sphere change and then interact with him. I think Rainbow Key Sphere changing is one of the better defining qualities of a character when it comes to getting them, because if you key sphere change and it's like tech, you have the issue where like, can you get those orbs? Right? Can you stand in front of damage once you get those orbs? And the answer is can a lot of times be no. No. Look at Ribrianne, look at Vegeta, Namek Vegeta. Sometimes those characters change and then they literally can't get their own orbs, whereas Rainbow Key Spheres don't typically have that problem. So yeah, I'm gonna say I just really like that quality. It's 7 out of 10 for me. Gohan. Full Tilt Gohan is a, first of all, you know, really raised, etc. But basic effects. He is a 258% defense boy who is Rainbow Key Sphere changing and buffing allies 40%. Pretty good. Like, not a bad character at all in terms of like just this stat line. But what he's actually up to is closer to this. So here's the thing. This character is not dissimilar to Kaioken Goku. If I'm just looking at it in a vacuum, Kaioken Goku and this character are pretty similar. They do similar things. They want these Key Sphere obtain buffs. That said, the thing that sets them apart is the fact that this character has other fucking text on his screen. You know what I mean? He's a Rainbow Key Sphere changer instead of just a type Key Sphere changer. He's also supporting. He's also got a chance to evade. You're running him against extreme class enemies, why wouldn't you, right? If a character has this, I don't really take this as negative when characters have this, unless there's like one single fight that's the best in the game, like I guess Jiren. Like obviously this character's gonna suffer against Jiren because he's gonna be missing his chance to dodge, which inherently does make him worse than Cell. But I don't really mind a character who just wants to help accounts get through certain content. Right? There's a lot of content in the game that's extreme class. There's a ton of it. And even if you're missing this, you'll have a bunch of other text that says, hey, have fun. A pretty easy character to build if you have dupes, because you can blast again. Chance of performing critical hit, damage rate up, 50%, right? So in total, you would have a 50% damage reduction you would have chance of evading, and you would have the actual defensive stack, or I guess defensive multiplier here. And when HP is less, is it 58% or less, starting from the 4th turn from the start of battle, you get a one-time damage reduction rate of 30. So you could put him against anything, and he's got an 80% damage reduction rate, right? Just a character that's nice. You kind of get that, like, you know, final bout of energy here. It's so cool with, like, I do like when characters do the full orb change to int or to strength or to fizz, like the trio do. I love that. I love that mechanic. I think it's really cool. Like, it's flavorful. It makes you feel like you're, you know, it makes you feel like Gohan is, you know, charging up that final Kamehameha with his father. Has a nice little narrative through line. And yeah, I think this character is really well designed. I don't think he's, like, better than most of the characters on this list. Like, he's probably not better than Buon. I don't even think he's better than Cell. He's not better than Vegeta, obviously. He's probably not even better than DKP. Probably not better than Frieza. Right? So it's like, I don't even think he's good. I just like his design. I think his design's really good. It to me is a great acknowledgement of, like, the character's moment, while also being an interesting kit that very notably stands out from the rest of it. I think it's a nice gimmick kit. It's a fun gimmick kit. So let's get into the next batch. We're gonna get into the banner units here because Kind-Hearted Champion Hercule and the chaos brought by the god of destruction Beerus are very fun banner units. I really wish I didn't use this Beerus for a banner unit. Beerus is so disrespected in Dokkan. Beerus is more disrespected in Dokkan than, like, 98% of the cast. It's very funny. This dude has been a free-to-play LR in the 9th anniversary, and now he's a banner unit in the 10th anniversary, even though his movie and his portion of Dragon Ball Z, quote-unquote, Super, essentially revived the series, just completely dogged by the Dokkan Battle team. But yeah, great banner units. They do exactly what you need them to do as banner units, and I think that's, like, exemplary. So buffing the category that they're on, so nice 50% buff for every attack received or evaded, going up to 150%. This is a character I don't mind, by the way, is like, because, you know, you might see this and be like, oh, 1-turn support, but you're so mean to Demon King Piccolo. This is a free to play, or this is a banner unit, right? It's not like a LR that they put a lot of time into. Great active skill, so fun, and I am gonna count this in. Great active skill, just such a fun animation. The whole, like, what if Budokai reference, the chance of evading here super high. Before attacking gets a ton of damage reduction. After receiving goes to dodging, and then after evading hits him with the 2 key. It was essentially like dodging Baby Beast, who even from, like, watching this character get released, you could have expected that there was going to be AoEs in the new fights, right? Because it's so obvious that, like, how do you activate this unless you have to YOLO slot to him? But instead, you just make him, like, I don't know, like a safe floating option. So cool, man. I love Hercule. I think he'll go, especially because it's a Hercule unit, and, like, his whole thing in the games is that, like, you know, he doesn't want to get hit. I'm gonna put Hercule at 8. I love Hercule. So cool. Such a great reference. No wacky conditions or anything. Just a nice, powerful banner unit. So Beerus is stacking. Activating an entrance animation. I do think this is a cute animation. It's essentially just minorly pissing him off makes his animation pop, which is very funny. I think that's great. They also then tied it to, like, the successors category, which is its own bag of worms. But so Beerus is guarding for 7 turns, which is great. High chance of launching an additional for 7 turns, which is great. Most of the fights will be nearing their completion by 7. Well, not anymore, I guess, but most of them you'll be over the hump. After that, though, or beyond that, he's Rainbow Key Sphere changing, which a lot of characters seem to be doing this celebration, which is great. Nice high chance of evading an enemy's attacks. On a great attack that has a chance of becoming a super attack. So again, just a powerful support for the new category, even though the category needs help. And beyond that, his gimmick, much like Beerus, is that as you hit him, he gets more and more pissed, right? So And then like when he's focused on one, he's doing like much more. He's doing much more damage and he's critting. I think it's cool. I think it's a cute gimmick character. He feels like Beerus, in that he's sort of like playing the game in a way that is like hard to hit. He's doing big damage. He's manipulating the battlefield with like rainbow orb changing. I think that it comes through that like this is Beerus. That said, no active like Hercule has. He does have the intro, like we said. It's a great intro. I think he's okay in terms of his design though. I think I'm gonna put him at like a 6. Whereas I like what he's doing. I like that he has like HP conditions in this case, because you know, Beerus gets hit, he gets pissed off. I like that. I like that little through line for the Beerus type characters. But because he's a banner unit, he's just sort of limited, and I don't think it comes through as much as like with Hercule, who is just such a goofy character that when, you know, Hercule is doing this shit, it's like, all right, you know, we get it, right? So let us move on to the next patch. I think we'll get into some fan favorites now. Here I have the Gohan pulled up, and we're just going to do the rest of the Carnivals all in one go. So Gohan is a character that I love. I've talked about before. I think I adore this character. I think his design is great. He very much feels like, you know, he shows up, he dominates. He's like, there's no like bullshit. When Gohan turns Super Saiyan 2, it feels like it's over. That tonal switch of the character finally going Super Saiyan 2 after Android 18's death, the music sting, the resolution, you know, his tears wafting, and you know, him finally becoming serious and manhandling Cell for a bit. You get that sensation with this character. I don't need him to stack. I don't need him to, you know, build up. Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, turn 1 Super Saiyan 2 Gohan did not need to build up. He should be him immediately. In terms of like, you know, a lot of the other characters in the celebration, obviously they stack, you know. I think it's a great choice, even though he does have this, you know, big active skill where he does 1 billion damage and, you know, massively raises and all that. You know, you could say that, oh, if he had like a stack, it could be even better. I'm good on that. When this moment happens, Gohan isn't like elevating up and up and up. He was already fighting. He had already done the training. And this moment is just like raw, powerful emotion, right? And I think they capture that really well. He's just doing a lot, right? His actual like entrance animation gives him super attacks, so you can get this like huge barrage. Him taking down like Cell Juniors and stuff, so good, man. Basic attacks or basic effects, he's getting guard everywhere. He's getting huge numbers. Nice chunky damage reduction. Another huge number pile when he's actually attacking. And again, for every attack performed, he just goes up until 80%. I really like this character. From 5th turn, as the battle prolongs, and as you head towards that final, or that father-son Kamehameha, he's even getting crits for free at 24 key. Which again is just like a great, if you're going to make him escalate upwards, then I think this is the way to do it, where as he's fighting Cell and he finally comes to the point where he needs to use the father-son Kamehameha after Goku, you know, instant transmission him away or what have you. I think this shit rules, man. He's just so cool. I don't really have any complaints about him. I'm gonna say that he is a 9, and there's a reason he's a 9, because this guy, we'll talk about him, but I think this guy's actually a 10. And people could disagree. You know, people could be confused. Again, I always say this isn't a tier list. And when I put him on tier lists, I don't have him in the same realm as characters like, you know, the Fusions or even Great Ape Vegeta or stuff like that. Like, I don't have this guy set in those conversations because ultimately he's a character with weaknesses. But if you've heard me talk about characters, I love characters with weaknesses. I think it's great to have a character not be perfect. I think it makes them more interesting. If Gohan wanted to be perfect, he'd actually be a stacker, right? Because then he would have, again, a bigger active payoff, and he's already so invincible that he'd be able to stack for free, and it's kind of like whatever, but that's not interesting, right? Gohan narratively follows his like curve in the Cell fight, and that's what I love about him. Thing about this character is he's just super solid. He does a little bit of everything. He's getting, you know, high chance of performing crits. He's hugely supporting defensively. Guarding until he needs to transform is great, right? This is the classic faux pas that they made with the Bluesians, is that they would lose their guard and then still need an extra turn if you didn't get the HP condition right. They fixed that up, performing a critical hit at 24 ki, and they're also getting a bunch of ki per, like, just amazing. Their active conditions can be activated at 70% or less, or starting from the 5th turn, which means you can immediately go into Great Ape in certain fights. Awesome. The other thing about this character, and maybe you could consider this like, you know, this could be a point that doesn't make a lot of sense, but this character is a dodge character predominantly in this form, right? Great chance of evading enemies' attacks. You want to dodge 70%. If he doesn't, he can take a little bit of damage. The great thing about characters that can take damage like that while also having like these numbers like guard and you know, big bonus here and then numbers here, is that he can take a little damage then dodge the rest, and that can get you into this really fast. And again, it's not like consistent, but once you're out of this, which you don't have to say much about a Great Ape form, right? It's a Great Ape form. You know what it does. It can eat super attacks. He goes into this form. And this is where things get interesting, because he's a stacking character who's also 2-turn supporting flatly and also 70% supporting here with a damage reduction boost. What a character, dude. Like, he comes out and you just feel that sense of like, I don't know. Even the animation has like Pan crying, and you know, he's protecting, you know, the earth, and he's protecting Pan, and he's, you know, quelling his anger. It's just so cool. It's just so cool. It's, you know, it's Goku at his best, where he's just like this loving, goofy fighter who cares about the people in his life, and for him to just protect them, you know, swaddle them in support, guarding, critting at entry, getting extra attacks with 24 ki. He is so well-rounded, man. Anyway, it's time for Vegeta. None of that happens with this character. I actually kind of hate this character's design. Not because he's bad, he's just kind of boring. 30% damage reduction. He is rainbow ki sphere changing, which is cool. I'm not going to take that from him. For every attack he performed, he needs ki. It does end up with that situation where sometimes his early ki feels wonky, but he's also a character you need to float. So like, to get him all the way up, you might not see him at like easily getting ki until his 3rd turn on screen. He's got like a blink ultra like super attack, but it's, I don't know, it's, the great thing about it is that it's super easily obtainable, because it essentially includes all of the Gokus in the celebration, so that's nice. But I really don't like Vegeta's design. Again, this isn't about like power. If it was about power, he'd actually be like closer to like here, like, you know, up here somewhere. Actually, him and Frieza would be closer to like up here, but, and then like, you know, this character would be up here. So it's not about power, it's just about design. I really don't like his design. I think it's just kind of boring. Vegeta is like the most boring character released to Celebration, I feel like, in terms of premium units. Like, he's the definition of like, what does he even do? Alright, so I guess we'll get into the next batch. So we have the Strike of Full Anger Super Saiyan Goku, and I'm going to try to be fair, because if I was speaking from the heart, I would be getting so mad at this character. But you know, we're gonna take a pause. We're gonna breathe. We're gonna get nice and, you know, reserved. A 20% damage reduction, and to get the rest of it, you need to be slot 1. And this is a stacking character. Stacking character who also guards. You know, you get your guard. The issue is, and you've heard Truth say this many times, is that your stacking character can get up to big numbers, and then you get super for 7 million, and you don't have your guard anymore, and you're working with 50 million damage reduction. And because of that, you can't just stay in slot 1 because you just die. You have to go to slot 2, but then you don't get your damage reduction, So he has to be a slot 1 character. And that is a death sentence. He is strongest in slot 1, but he can't slot 1 like the other characters in his class. Beast Gohan and Tech Broly aren't here, obviously, but like, how do you put that character in slot 1 when you have these two characters here? And then you have the Frieza, who I'm going to bring up. You could dodge with Goku up here, Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Great Ape Vegeta mogs you. It's just you're trying... The issue with Namek Goku is that the entire run is built around him trying to look his best. You're essentially playing a character whose entire existence is you trying to make them look good. He doesn't just fit on the team, you know, which is weird because he's a Goku, right? He's on a billion teams. But you feel this character on your team. And that's something people don't appreciate about a character like Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. You don't even need to feel this character on your team. You can put him in slot 2. You can put him in slot 3. Sometimes you can go in slot 1. Like, you don't have to worry about him at all. Whereas your entire run is predicated on making this guy look good most of the time. And that's just not a position I like characters to be in, especially when they're my cherished LR EZAs. I'd say his design is about as good as... Yeah, I'd say Vegeto's. I just think there's a lot of fluff in this kit that just doesn't work. And the fact that he loses his guard at turn 6 when he's a stacking character is like damning. I mean, Truth made the video talking about it already. I guess I can go to Goku's family for this. But, like, at what point are you just a worse version? At what point do you just literally become an EZA worse version of, like, Gohan? I don't know. Frieza, on the other hand, is a character who is pretty neat. For every attack received, they go up to 20%. They get a flat 20% here. That's 40%. That's already 10% less than... It's only 10% less than Goku, right? As he slot 1... Alright? So, 40% from getting hit. So they need to get hit 3 times. And they go up to 20%. They're getting 20% here. It's 40%. As a first attack on the turn, they get 30%, so up to 70% reduction, and then they're stacking, and they guard on the first turn. Yep. That's a much better character. That's just a much better version of Goku's. It does match Frieza. Frieza takes damage, and he gets more irate, you know. Stacking. I don't know. I don't know what to say. He's just a much more solid version of the Goku. I don't think he's, like, masterfully created or anything. I don't think he's like the most interesting character in the world, but I think he does deserve to be like right here. Like, he has a gimmick. He builds towards his incredibly iconic active skill. He's crushing super class units. He's getting more damage for 7 turns in and 6 turns in, which is very cute. It's, you know, it's like you know, Frieza getting angrier and angrier and sort of releasing the limits on his power more and more as he fights Goku. I like it. I like it. I think he's a pretty well-designed character. I think he's pretty interesting. And I wish Goku was like him, but too bad, I guess. So let's get into the fusions. I think this will be some of the least I talk about these characters, but I can't really explain it. Like, you get that these two are a 10 out of 10 design. Even if you're like, oh my god, the Vegeta side of this card is so much weaker than the, you know, Goku side here, or, you know, like I said, I've heard it all. I've heard people complaining, like, when there's nothing to talk about, people have to make up arguments. So I've heard, like, the comparisons between these two and their exchange, and, like, the power level, and I guess all I'm going to say is, like, I like that these guys have vulnerabilities in their base. Yeah, sorry. Like, I don't think that you should get to go into this for absolutely free. Because actually, and this is going to be like the unfortunate share of, like, the opinion, that the content was not hard enough for them. It's still not hard enough for them. It's probably not going to be hard enough for them for, I want to say, 2 more months, 3 more months, 4 more months. We're probably going to be in content that just is not good enough for Gogeta and Vegeta for a bit. Maybe. Like, Dokkan would have to understand that they need to power creep now. They would have to pull Dragon Ball Legends level of power creep where they release the Ultra and everybody's like, oh my god, we hate fighting them. And then next celebration, they release the fucking Ultra that, you know, the LF that defeats that Ultra, right? So we are kind of in the position, the nuclear arms race, where these two characters are completely unmatched. And even if you don't use them, I'm not even going to go over their kit because you know what they fucking do. Even if you don't transform into them, these are such powerful, like, defensive abilities. This character might, I mean, in 8 months, you could tell me, oh yeah, Goku's better. Because he's dodging, right? Like, it just is what it is. He has a chance to dodge, so he's going to age better, typically. Great kits, great exchanges, great actives, amazingly different in what they're trying to achieve once they do fuse. Insane animations. Stacking is relevant. Finally, we have a character who's countering and it actually matters. Vegeto's counter is... Vegeto's active, until they add consistent, meaningful stun to counter him, is one of the most satisfying and, like, power fulfilling moves in the game. Because once he does it, he's countering the enemy like 12 times in a turn, and it's doing like 20 million each time. Yeah, there's just not much to say, right? They're kind of just perfect. I don't really have like a negative thing to say about them. I think they're just a perfect unit. They're a perfect unit who has weaknesses, and I love that. I love that they have weaknesses. I think it would have been the most boring timeline if they were literally these guys turn 1 instead. And to speak to these guys, turn 1, yeah, again, very similar in base. So I'm just gonna read one of them because very similar in base, but 77% damage reduction, so essentially invincible turn 1. Ton of stacks and guarding for 7 turns. So like I said, invincible turn 1. Big stat boost here. Stacking, of course, greatly stacking on both, so 50% on both, huge. Attacks effective against all types, not meaning too meaningful, but where these characters get interesting is in what they're up to. And I want to talk about Gogeta first, or Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta first, because much like Vegito, this becomes one of the most power fulfilling like fantasies in the game. Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta countering super attacks, and in some cases countering multiple super attacks, feels so good, man. This line of text is so good, and it's like a 30-40 million counter. So cool, man. Other than that, though, it is nice that these characters don't stay strong the entire time. Well, let me rephrase that. It's nice that you can't stack infinitely safely on this side, because they do get weaker as like time goes on. They don't keep their strength forever. So they can be challenged. That said, they have plenty of time to stack up, and in which case they have an amazing active to get into the fusion. Once in the fusion, they're using this incredible 4-turn buff. A 100% raise for 4 turns, followed by like a massively raise for 1 turn. Just makes this character explode off the screen, guarding all the time, randomly changing key spheres to rainbow, damage reduction for each rainbow achieved. So again, even when the people were like, oh my god, are they going to be good? It's like, yeah, they're going to be good. Duh. What are you talking about? Damage reduction rate 50% within this turn when HP is 50% or less, so he's saving himself. He's basically saving the rotation. Again, another case of 50% here, 10% here for each rainbow. So technically could go up to 100% and guarding, which means that if you drop to 50%, you're essentially invincible for the turn. So cool, man. Just so cool. Such a good character. Forcing enemy super attacks, giving you that feeling of Gogeta, who's just like, he just knows better. He knows what you're thinking. He knows what you're going to do. He's going to counter. He's going to, crush you for it. Making Omega Shenron look like an absolute bitch. Incredible power fantasy. On the other hand, they managed to do what they did with Vegito and Gogeta for the DFEs, which is make these characters different enough to be meaningful. Super, super cool. Again, getting the massive erase and disabling enemy action 1 turn. Probably the single best orb changer ever, right? Like, I think so. Like, aren't they double rainbow orb changing? Yeah, double rainbow orb changing here. They're dodging. They're guarding. They're also getting 10% to evade here for every, so 50% in total you could be. And they're doing the same thing where when you 50% or less, if they don't have dodge canceling, they go infinite and they can't be hit. I don't know. Great characters, much like the DFE Gogeta and Vegito. Different enough while also being extremely powerful. Overall, I'd say this is a pretty good. I think this is a pretty good celebration, or even a phenomenal celebration for character variety and character kits. Yeah, most towards the top end. I don't think there's anything wrong with being like a 7 out of 10, by the way. Again, Vegeta isn't like the most insane gimmick, like fulfills the power fantasy ever, but he's really strong, right? It doesn't matter if he is, because we do need flatly strong characters, right? So yeah, I think that's gonna do it. An amazing celebration. I mean, to get 5 characters in 10 out of 10, to get 4 more in 9 and 8, and then for the other big releases to be 7s, like, I think that's a success. I'm gonna have to give the 10th anniversary in total probably not a 10 out of 10. There were some sadly. I think it could be better. But I think in total, we're going to grade the 10th anniversary as a very solid, very fortunate 9 out of 10 for me. Super solid anniversary. Still super excited for whatever the extreme part's going to be. And Dokkan looks really strong going into 2025. Well, that said, like if you like the video, subscribe to the club. We all go make it, and hey, peace.